Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I'm here to talk about Elvis Brener versus Joel Alvarez. My prediction for the fight is Alvarez wins and that he's the first guy to finish Elvis Brener, and he does so via submission. Elvis Brener has never been finished. He's been defeated 4 times. He's been hurt and put in some submissions in serious shitty spots, but he's been able to push through it all and the exhaustion that went along with it. And he seems like a very tough guy to get out of there. Usually I side with the durability of the fighter that I expect to lose over the danger of the fighter I expect to win. But Joel Alvarez is so potently dangerous that I have a hard time envisioning him winning by decision at all. In fact, I think that's how, if this goes the distance, Elvis Brener should probably win. And I imagine it would be out scrambling Joel Alvarez, getting on top of him, and stuffing the guard and keeping himself safe on top. But that's a pretty tall order, too. I think Joel Alvarez, he's not Mr. Wrestler himself, so he doesn't bring that pressure that Elvis Brenner's had to face in his 4 defeats, but he brings good striking. Joel Alvarez may not be that dangerous, but he does have good, effective striking, and he forces his opponents to shoot on him. And that's how he gets the fight to the ground. And before they even get the fight there, he's already threatening with a guillotine, usually. That's how he finished Joe Duffy. And someone else, Yakuklev, he caught him with a guillotine on the way down and then armbarred him, kind of like Patty Pimlet did to Bobby Green. But he lays traps for you, and he is a trap. He's a walking trap, Joel Alvarez, and really from any position, he's a big submission threat. If he's able to stuff your takedowns, he can lace up a Darce choke like he did on Mark Jacasey in his last fight, headbutt notwithstanding. But yeah, the pick is based on the danger of Joel Alvarez. Also, I should mention he's got 5 inches of height and 5 inches of reach over Elvis Brener, which will help him on the feet. Joel is not a great jouster like he should be, using his height and reach. But on the flip side, he doesn't leave himself too open. He's the guy who's been TKO'd twice in this matchup here, and he protects himself well generally. I should mention his losses. One loss was to this guy, Ali Abdul Khalikov or something. He caught him with a spinning back kick many years ago, and it was over in like 15 seconds. Knocked him straight on his ass and took him out of the fight. The other TKO loss comes to Arman Sarukian, the next title challenger. Arman mauled him in 7 minutes, took him to the ground, stuffed his guard, and started smashing him. Smashed him wide open with an elbow at the end of round one, and then beat the blood out of him for the next few minutes till it was stopped mercifully. There was plenty of mercy. His other loss is a striking loss to Damir Ismagulov. Damir Ismagulov is a very talented fighter, really good, effective neutralizer, clean striker, difficult guy to out wrestle despite his losses in the UFC. And he was a tough matchup for Joel. I believe that was his debut, and he was totally stifled and neutralized on the feet by Damir Ismagulov. And that, I don't think, is a path to victory for Elvis Brener. Really, I think if Elvis Brener is to beat Joel Alvarez, it's going to be by slowing him down, taking away his danger, and securing top position. Joel Alvarez is a guy, kind of like I mentioned with Victoria Dudakova and fucking somebody else recently. He's one of those guys who will accept bottom position because he's looking to threaten you with his guard. And he's got a lot of great threats, and usually it works out for him. But the next time he loses, it'll be because it didn't, and he let someone on top of him. That's my prediction anyway. Elvis Brener, I should talk about his record briefly. He's only got a few TKO losses. One way back in round 3, and two in his UFC in 2 of his UFC wins, knocking out Kenan Khrushchevsky, knocking him dead, face planting him, and knocking out Guram Kutadaladze, who's also on this card. And I hope he doesn't get shell shocked when he sees Elvis. But that was one of the most incredible fights I've ever seen, performances, I should say. Elvis Brener stepped up, I believe, on very short notice and got the last possible finish I expected. A third round TKO for the guy with no real obvious danger on the feet, and against Guram, who's a problem there. It was such an incredible victory, a bloody war. He was hurt. He faced a lot of dicey moments, but he kept at it, pushed through fatigue like he's done in every one of his losses and a lot of his wins, and he was the last man standing and got Guram out of there, overwhelmed him and TKO'd him, ripping him to the body, and just got him out of there in the end. It was beautiful. One of the most beautiful performances I've seen. So he may not be Mr. Knockout on paper. He's only got 3 TKOs, but 2 of them have come in 2 of his most valuable fights in the UFC, and one of them is definitely his best win. So uh, it's there for him. It's tricky, but his striking can produce finishes. He's much more of a submission threat, though, and I'll say he's never been submitted. That bodes well for him. But even with his 11 submission victories, I think he's at a disadvantage grappling with Joel Alvarez. As far as the submissions go, anyway. First submission should go to Joel Alvarez here. He's a lot more dangerous, and he's finished a lot better guys by submission than Elvis Brener has. And Elvis Brener's got 4 losses. A lot of them very close fights, every one of them pretty much. He lost to Sergey Andreev, this Russian dude, beat him by decision. That was more of a top position decision there. He lost to Gabriel Santos, who's one of the most underrated guys in the UFC. That was a back and forth battle. He fatigued a little bit in the end, but he still had his moments, just like he did against Mirtabek Orobai. He ended up in the full mount, I believe, at the end of round 2 against both guys. So he gave them both hell, but top position in wrestling is ultimately what solved those fights. And I believe the same goes for his fight against Dennis Silva. I watched it a few days ago, but I forgot what the fuck happened. I know I've seen it, though, and I believe that wrestling was the story there. Could totally be wrong there, though. I don't know. Anyway, the point is, he's never been finished. He's pushed through fatigue. He's shown some new wrinkles to his game since making it to the UFC. He's got a lot going on. But here, I think if something goes wrong, whether he's just caught in a bad spot on his own or Joel makes something happen, I think Joel Alvarez is a much better finishing threat than anybody he's fought. And that's the pick. I've got Joel Alvarez finding a submission in one way or another. I bet on him because the odds are tight, but not a lot. I'll look for the submission line, and really I'll look for Brener via decision on the other side. Because even though he's only won 2 decisions in his career, I do think if he beats Joel Alvarez, it's by decision. TKO could always happen, but I don't think he's got that dynamic danger like the spinning back kick that took out Joel. And I know he doesn't have the ferocity and the overall attack of Arman Sarukian to go through him in that way. So anything's possible, but I'd say Brener should win if he does by decision. But again, the pick is Joel Alvarez. I think he's going to be too dangerous, and I think the Spider's going to catch him a fly with a guillotine choke or some shit. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit. Check out my other videos.